I'm an American living in Northern Ireland, and I just bought my 200-year-old dream home, and now I'm an influencer. Here's a clip of the video that made us fall in love with this home. And here's a clip of what the house looked like when we got the keys. Today I was gonna do a backstory on me and how we came by this house. That's my husband listening to sports talk while he takes a dump. So I was just recording a video giving a backstory, and it just felt super stiff and like not great. American, and I live here in Northern Ireland, and I thought, you know what? As I said in my very first Insta reel, we're gonna keep it real here. So I'm gonna put you on my tripod, I'm gonna make a cup of coffee, and we're gonna go outside and talk. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Emily Dunlop. I am an actress, a writer, and a voiceover artist. And what you'll probably find to be the most interesting about me is that my husband and I just bought our 200-year-old dream home in Ireland. Why Ireland, you might ask? My husband's from here. So for the last 10 years, Philip and I were living in Atlanta, where I was pursuing my career in acting. Over those 10 years, we would daydream about splitting our time between Ireland and America and what that would look like. But it was just a pipe dream. When COVID hit, the industry sort of came to a grinding halt. It started to recover around 2022, 2023. Then the SAG and writers' strike happened. And we just thought, you know what? There's no time like the present. Let's try doing this whole time split thing. Now, for those of you who are wondering about like, well, what about work and what about money and how are you able to afford doing something like that? We have a property that we rent out in America on Airbnb that my husband renovated himself from the ground up. And I thought I'd show you a little video of what that process was like. Here's the house on our very first viewing, and it looks pretty bad. It has asbestos siding, and I'm zooming this up so that you can see it in quick time. As you can see, it needed a lot of work. There's the asbestos siding. There's it taken off, and underneath was this lovely green layer of awful siding that had rot beneath that siding. Here's Phil on a ladder. There's all the siding on the ground, and here it is, magically done with fresh siding and a new coat of paint. He did all of it. I'm not going to show you the renovations of the inside because that would take too long. Here is the final product. I designed the interior, all of the furnishings, and Philip did the manual labor. And as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather have my end of the bargain and he would rather have his. So together we make a pretty good team. Yeah, he rebuilt it. And we're so lucky to be in the real estate game in any way. To own a home feels like something that's going to tie you down. But my experience is that it has given us so many options. Our rental property bought us a little bit of time. And as far as my work goes, ever since COVID, auditions are mainly done via self-tape, and you don't actually have to be in person for anything until you're at the callback or chemistry read phase. And sometimes even that is done over mainly Zoom. And for those of you who think that if you're married to an Irish citizen or a British citizen that you can immediately just get Irish or British citizenship, you can't. You gotta do a lot of paperwork, you gotta pay lawyers, and you gotta pay the government, and you've got to apply for a visa, and it takes months. Philip and I finally did that process, and by the time we were done with it, we realized that I was only eligible for citizenship if I didn't travel outside of the country for more than 6 weeks a year for the next 3 to 5 years. So we came here thinking that we were gonna be splitting our time, but as soon as we found that out, we were like, oh yeah, mom and dad, guess I live in Ireland now. So we sort of had to roll with it. We rented a place on the North Coast and we were looking to buy in that area, but it's expensive. And mortgage lenders over here want you to have income from the UK, and they want it to be a salary. They don't count any income that you have from other countries. They want to see that you're a contributing resident in this country. So we started our job hunt. Begin phase 2. Getting a job right now is hard no matter where you are, but getting a job in Northern Ireland, I didn't realize how hard it was gonna be, but it was tough. My husband applied for like countless jobs and he finally was able to get one with a great organization. I, on the other hand, had nothing. The film industry in the States was at a standstill because of the strikes, and I was in a completely different market with no representation over here in the UK. I'm not gonna get into the whole Northern Ireland thing, but I will say that because I'm in the north of Ireland, I put my focus there as far as the film industry goes. I'm gonna read this part from my notes. So I started networking with within the film industry. I went to any event I could find in Belfast and the surrounding areas. I applied for mentorship schemes. I submitted scripts to competitions. I was writing every single day for 2 to 4 hours a day. I have about 2 to 3 scripts that I've written. I emailed producers, writers, casting agents. I was completely shameless, asking people to meet with me, asking if they needed an assistant or even a trainee. I would cold call agents of writers and producers that I knew of in the area saying, does your client need a personal assistant on set? Because I'm available and I'll do anything. Not quite like that. I tried to be professional, but side note, I am editing this and I wanted to clarify that I did not cold call. I cold emailed all of these people. And what I am sharing with you right now is not advice of what you should do if you're looking to get involved in the film industry. Please recognize that everything that I did came from 10 years of experience within the industry. I recommend that you always follow best practice and don't annoy casting directors or agents by cold calling them. I knew that if I could just get on set or get in a writer's room, that I'd be able to work my way up the ladder from there. I was willing to, eat for a while until I could prove myself and work my way up, but no one would have me. I got rejected from every scheme that I applied to. Every script that I submitted was rejected. I couldn't get representation. I couldn't get on set or in a writer's room. Yeah, it was 18 months of chipping away at anything and everything that I could think of doing within the film industry and not having much to show for it. I wanted to share a few of the spreadsheets that I have of all of the people, agents, casting directors that I reached out to while being here. I went ahead and blocked out all of their information because it's private, as well as all of my notes because that's private too. This also includes applying for countless crew jobs, anything that was available within the industry, whether it was on or off screen, your girl applied for it. Now, I was able to get an agent and I did book a couple of TV shows over here, but it still wasn't enough to show UK mortgage lenders that I had an annual salary to contribute towards a mortgage. And that's when I started applying for jobs. Begin phase 3. Yeah, getting a job in Northern Ireland is hard for a Northern Irish person, but it's even harder for an American / an actress because all I have to contribute is my acting background. So yeah, I couldn't get a job. More rejection. Story of my life. So that's when I started looking for a part-time job. And when I adjusted my search that way, I found one and it's been great. So now with my husband and my combined income, we were able to qualify for a mortgage. Begin phase 4, the house hunt. Okay, I had been looking on Property Pal, which is Northern Ireland's equivalent to Zillow, and I knew every house, piece of property, condo, apartment that was available in this part of the world. I even was obsessed with a site called formerglory.ie. They have so many beautiful old castles and really unique properties that I kept falling in love with, but none of them ever made any sense for our life. But what I soon realized was even with our combined incomes, the mortgage that we qualified for wasn't enough to allow us to buy in the part of the North Coast that we wanted to live, which was like, we've come so far. We'd worked so hard to get to this point, but it just never seemed to be enough. So it was at that point that I started extending my search to the surrounding areas. Phil and I had avoided areas that we didn't really want to be in because we'd picked up a life of 10 years in a city that we loved with friends that we loved. We had a home there. Why pick all of that up and move to live in an area that we didn't want to be? So it was really disheartening to discover that we couldn't afford the area that we intended on. So I decided one day to extend my search to the surrounding areas, and that is when I found Antrim House. It was in Phil's hometown. Sometimes moving back to where you started can feel like a step back in your life and a step back in your goals when you're trying to move forward. We'd never considered this little town because it's where Phil grew up. So when I saw Antrim House come up, I was like, this is a dream. This is a dream. After 5 years of searching, I'd never seen something like this beautiful home on the market. And when I saw the location, I was like, he's not going to go for it. But I showed him anyway. And we all know how the story ends. So the first thing he said was, book a viewing. And I did. That is when the real fun started. Viewing booked. Begin phase 5. Buying Antrim House was not straightforward. And to this day, I did one of the most ballsy moves that I've ever done in my life to this stage. And I kind of still can't believe that I did it. But yeah, if you want to hear about that, follow for part 2 because this is when it gets juicy.